hard because they're so different and they utilize different skill sets. But I feel like it gives me balance in utilizing my skills, both from the creative aspect and then more on like the intellectual leadership capabilities. And I want to have both. I want to be able to find a fulfilling career that utilizes all of my skill sets, not just one. And I feel like I can bring that to my communities, to my coachees, to my students. I'm still finding that balance. But what I will say is that I don't want to give either of the two up.
I'm excited to be speaking with Dr. Janine Lee, an award-winning learning and development leader with 20 years of experience at Fortune 500 companies. In her business life, she focuses on organizational effectiveness, strategy and operations, digital transformation, change management, and belonging. She's also known to the world as JetsetJanine, a food and travel content creator who has explored over 100 countries and eaten at over 100 Michelin-starred restaurants. As a food and travel influencer, she's partnered with top brands such as Delta Airlines, Visa, Hyatt, Marriott, Four Seasons, Cirque Du Soleil, and many others. Janine has an MBA from UC Berkeley and a doctorate of education from USC. She's a certified executive coach, keynote speaker, LinkedIn learning instructor, published best-selling author, and a lecturer at UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. Janine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. I'm so excited to be here.
You say you fell in love with traveling when you visited Japan when you were 18. As a young person, what did you imagine your life and career might look like? And did it involve travel to the extent that you're doing today?
As a young person, I knew I fell in love with travel and I wanted to travel more, but I didn't know how to. My first job out of college was at a local Bay Area company and it did not involve travel. So I would have never imagined, fast forward to now, that I would have traveled to over 100 countries. I think what I did was I created those opportunities for myself and I sought them out. So every year, even though I wasn't able to travel for work, I would take at least 2 big international vacations and I would try to stack as many countries as I could to get a flavor for different cultures, different locations. And in addition to that, I pursued the opportunity to teach at the Haas School of Business, which really opened doors for me to be able to travel to South Africa specifically to lecture with an amazing team of Haas faculty.
I'm curious, after 100 countries, what countries are on your bucket list?
Oh, that's a good question. So I've been to 6 continents. I'm still missing Antarctica. So definitely Antarctica is up there so that I could go to all 7 continents. I also, on my list, would love to go to Greenland, Bolivia to see the salt flats. And I would love to go back to Australia. I went when I was much younger, but I only went to Sydney. And I feel like there's so much more on that continent for me to explore as well.
Many people love to travel, and some of them try to make it as influencers or content creators, but it's really hard to get into. How do you think your business and education background has helped you find success as a content creator?
Well, first and foremost, I think in any business, you have to be effective in communications and marketing yourself. And having my MBA from Haas really helped me understand my own personal brand presence and how to effectively communicate as well as market my business as well as what I have to offer. So at Haas, in our marketing class, we talk a lot about USP, unique selling proposition. So what is it that makes me unique as a content creator or a blogger in comparison to my peers? And so I index a lot on having traveled to over 100 countries and having eaten at over 100 Michelin stars, because that is inherently my unique selling proposition and what makes me unique. The other element I'll touch on is the art of storytelling. Being able to communicate through telling a story in your content also brings to life, whether it's the hotel you're at or the food that you're eating or the experience that you're indulging in, that really brings in your viewers to feel like they're with you. And I've definitely been able to leverage my storytelling skills in my content as well.
You mentioned that landing your first paid airline collaboration with Delta Airlines helped to solidify your identity as a content creator. What did the journey look like to get there? So we're talking about really like the 0 to 1 of becoming a content creator.
Yeah, so for a long time, I was just posting food that I was eating and places that I was traveling to, more like a personal blog. And then over time, my followership grew and grew because it was a public account. And I think at about the point where I hit 10,000 followers, I felt like some type of affirmation that people really enjoyed my content. So I started having people reach out to me to partner together, whether it was a product they were promoting or a restaurant they wanted me to visit. But oftentimes it started off as a trade. So it was come dine here and we'll comp your meals, which wasn't bad to begin with. But then over time, I had to really build my portfolio and then feel confident in what I had to offer. So if I look back at my videos right when I started as a content creator, probably 2 years ago, I laugh because I feel like my videos have transformed so much and I've gotten so much more practice. So what I would say is, don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to do things for trade initially, because over time, when people who are ready to pay you see your content, they'll actually see what you can bring to the table. And you have to build up that portfolio, just like you would build a professional resume in your day-to-day job before you can get the experience needed to be hired.
What has your journey looked like since landing Delta?
So I definitely have had a lot more paid collaborations. I have had a couple big partnerships with credit unions and Visa in promoting credit cards. I've also partnered with other big brands who've let me feature their products as well as hotels. And I think I'm just continuing to grow. I've pivoted to focus not just on my Instagram, but also to focus on my blog, which has also gotten some traction. In fact, Adobe just reached out to me in the last week to do a guest feature and to see if I'd be interested in partnering with them. So I definitely think opening up different avenues and channels has been really critical for me as well. And I'm also working on my next book, which will feature the 100 countries that I've traveled to.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. So, your book proposal that you shared with me is going to be combining both of your personas in what you call 100 passport stamps, one purpose. What can you share about a few of the main ideas in this book?
So the goal of the book is to really merge my two passions, which up until this point have been two unique identities, Dr. Janine Lee, the certified executive coach, and JetsetJanine, the world traveler. And the book really talks about how traveling to over 100 countries has made me the leader I am today, and how the exposure of these different countries, the cultures, what I've learned about myself has made me authentically who I am today. So I will be sharing a bunch of life lessons, such as my travel to South Africa, how I've learned about the spirit of Ubuntu. A person is not a person without other people, and the humanity of life. I also talk about my experiences solo traveling and how nerve-wracking it was, but how I had to overcome my fear to really learn more about myself and to be alone with my thoughts.
Yeah, travel really gives us this opportunity for personal growth. How do you think the growth has gone in the other way? How do you think your business background, your coaching background has made you into a more sophisticated traveler, a more worldly traveler?
It's an excellent question. I think the business aspect and the coaching allows me to ask more open-ended questions to really immerse myself in the culture when I'm at a country. So instead of just eating a food and enjoying it and saying this tastes great, what are the ingredients? I'd like to start asking about the cultural significance and the history. So why is this food so important to this culture? And that ensures that I'm really immersing myself in understanding more about the history and the people and not just about enjoying my experience there as a tourist. So as a lecturer at the Hostel of Business, I take part in a trip called Seminar in International Business South Africa. We're also launching a seminar international business in Taiwan. And a lot of what we do is visit business agencies and immerse ourselves in the culture. And I take a lot of those principles with me when I travel to really study about a country's origin, their history, the people before actually traveling to the country and asking questions, whether it's to my Uber driver or somebody at the airport about what their experience is living and growing up in that country.
Yeah, it sounds like a deepening of those experiences beyond being a tourist or having fun or being on vacation. It sounds like it's really a learning opportunity for you. How do you think about your two identities, Dr. Janine Lee and JetsetJanine, in terms of the energy that you're giving them at any moment?
It's really challenging because I feel like I'm double hatting between the two. I'm oftentimes blocking off work time, whether it's a lecture at UC Berkeley or a coaching session, and or blocking off time to create content. And I struggle between having to make a choice sometimes. It's a trade-off if I'm going to be working on a video reel and putting myself out there for a collaboration versus trying to find a new upcoming conference or a talk that I could participate in as a keynote speaker. And so I do feel like it's hard because they're so different and they utilize different skill sets. But at the same time, I feel like it gives me balance in utilizing my skills, both from the creative aspect and then more on like the intellectual leadership capabilities. And I want to have both. I want to be able to find a fulfilling career that utilizes all of my skill sets, not just one. And I feel like I can bring that to my communities, to my coachees, to my students. And I'm still finding that balance. But what I will say is that I don't want to give either of the two up.
Yeah, absolutely. On a more practical level, how do you divide time or how do you think about time on recent projects like your LinkedIn Learning course and writing your travel blogs? Is it kind of on a daily, weekly schedule? How do you think about that?
Well, definitely daily. I'm working on both Dr. Janine Lee and JetsetJanine. So it's really time blocks that I put on my calendar and I color code it if it's specifically JetsetJanine or Dr. Janine Lee. And I try not to task switch because it's really challenging to go between the two because they're so different. The other thing I'll say is that it's okay to ask for help. And what I mean by that is sometimes you can be so much more effective if you get the right people to be a part of your team. And so sometimes people think being a content creator is a solo job. You find a collaboration, you create the content, you post the content, and it's a one-on-one interaction. But it's really a bigger community of people that are connecting you to these opportunities and helping make the connections that you need. So I have gotten to know several content creators in the Bay Area that I see as mentors and friends, and we uplift each other. We identify opportunities. So you're not in it alone. And similarly, as a coach, you might feel like you're also in it alone because you are trying to find clients, you're trying to find speaking opportunities, but you have a team as well. So joining AWCC, which I know, Jessica, is how I met you in the Asian Women Coaching Collective, and meeting other coaches has also fostered that team environment. So when I'm stuck, I'm able to ask questions and say, how did you get through this? And then the last thing I'll say is you can always hire virtual assistants. You can find opportunities to take away administrative work from your day-to-day so that you're focusing on more of the strategic elements to move either of your businesses forward. And I've had to learn to let go of certain things. For example, my Dr. Janine Lee, my social media, I've had interns, I've had virtual assistants to help me with creating my content because I know that my time is better served utilizing my content for JetsetJanine. So it's a trade-off that I've made, but I knew that I could not manage two accounts at the same time.
Let's take a moment to reflect on this question. Where in your work do you need more help? Outside of hosting this podcast, I partner with leaders in the workplace to turn professional challenges into leadership successes and career progression. I love working with executive leaders, people managers, and of course, ampersands. If any of this sounds interesting to you, reach out to me at jessicawan.com. That's JESSICAWAN. Now, back to the show. How are you thinking about moving each of these businesses forward? Are there goals that you have in mind? Is there kind of an end game? Is it more about the journey? Tell us more about that.
For Dr. Janine Lee, my North Star goal is to continue scaling my business. I would love to be the next Brene Brown for women of color. That includes publishing my book, continuing to lecture at the Haas School of Business, continuing to find leaders who want to be coached to reach their full potential, and ultimately landing more speaking opportunities at larger conferences. For JetsetJanine, I want to continue growing my account. I would love to hit 100,000 followers at some point on Instagram, continue growing my blog, and getting large corporate sponsorships. I think my vision is to continue growing as an influencer, creating an opportunity for others to live vicariously through me in both food and travel, and also to continue supporting small businesses. It is so touching for me to hear from a small business that my video or my blog has made a difference in giving them foot traffic to increase visitors, and that has helped their business sustain. That is something I find really fulfilling.
That must be so meaningful to hear. One topic that's come up a lot in my circles is around how to engage with social media sustainably and responsibly. On the one hand, it's critical, especially for entrepreneurs and for influencers, of course, to show up and be visible on social media. On the other hand, too much engagement can lead to burnout. How do you think about this?
It's definitely a polarity that I juggle with every day, because on one hand, there's so many benefits to social media and getting the word out about a business, connecting with other people, being creative. And then on the other side, it is draining when I have to post content, create content, and take time away from my family and friends to be on social media when I'm trying to be more tech free and to not be on my phone all the time. So the struggle is real. I think it's really a balance of going in and doing what I need to do and trying not to linger and having specific goals when I go into social media. I think the other thing that I try not to do is to compare myself to other creators or compare myself to other people. Because when you are exposed on social media, it's really easy to get tripped up to say, oh, this other creator is growing so much faster than me. I wish I was able to grow as quickly. Or this person's posting every day, 7 days a week. So then you want to set the bar higher. But you have to really be kind to yourself and love yourself and say you will continue doing the best that you can, even if you're posting 2 to 3 times a week, to not be hard on yourself. So really the compassion and self-care is what I've had to learn, that no matter what, there's always more you can do and there's always less, but to find what you are comfortable with and the trade-offs that you're making in your life. And that's really what you need to decide for yourself.
So well said. Your PhD dissertation focused on the sense of belonging for women of color in technology. As you've traveled around the world, how has your perspective either shifted or become stronger around the topic of belonging?
So I'm very passionate about the topic of belonging. My life vision is to create a world where everyone feels like they belong. And it's a very lofty goal. And I would say that my topic was something I was very passionate about. My dissertation chair said that I had to hone in on a subset of belonging. So I picked women of color in technology. However, my findings really relate in so many different social contexts and dynamics and countries because everyone wants to feel like they belong. And as I've traveled, I've seen more and more of the social dynamics in countries where specific groups of people feel isolated or feel like they don't belong for whatever reason. And there's so much more work to be done outside of the United States. So it's definitely broadened my horizon that this problem is not just in the United States or in the workplace environment, but it's more systemic and it's across the world. And so it has shown me that my work is still not done and there's still so much more progress to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think ties together all of your endeavors and your two personas?
Really, when I try to encapsulate what I do, I know that I wear multiple hats, but my life mission for Dr. Janine Lee has always been to inspire leaders to reach their full potential. I don't know that I came up with a life mission for JetsetJanine, but the more I think about it and I'm trying to merge these two identities, it's to inspire individuals to reach their full potential, whether it's personally or professionally. So personally, to try new things, to experience life, to live it to its fullest, to really travel and open up your mind to something that you normally wouldn't be able to experience. And then professionally, to really find a career that's meaningful for you, to be the best leader that you can be, to really land the impact that you want and the dream job that you want. So now I've come more and more to see that they do connect, that it's really about helping individuals see all of those things for a really holistic life and lots of self-love and self-care that you can work hard and you can play hard too.
What would you say to the 18-year-old version of you who, just came back from Japan for the first time and is looking ahead?
There's so much in the world to see. Don't be afraid to explore and be adventurous. This isn't the last time that you're going to travel. You will have ample opportunities to create the life that you want. And before you know it, you will have traveled to 100 countries and have some amazing life lessons to take with you for the rest of your life.
Through these interviews, we're co-creating the Ampersand Manifesto, Principles for Leading a Multi-Passionate Life. What are some of the principles that you want to leave with our listeners?
I think the first one is curiosity. So don't be afraid of being curious and experimenting new things, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. I think the second thing is passion. Always do what you're passionate about. And if you have passion and meaning in anything that you do, whether personally or professionally, it won't feel like work. I always say, if you do what you love, you'll love what you do. And so the more you can align your passions and interests, the more you're going to be able to accomplish what it is that you want to do in all facets of your life. And then the last thing that I'll just say is self-love and self-care for balance. There's definitely so many things that you can do with your time, and especially if you're ambitious and you set goals. But just know that what's most important is that it's a marathon and not a sprint. And you really need to balance your life, the things that you enjoy doing, the people you enjoy spending life with your goals, and to never over-index on working because work will always be there. So finding that balance is really something you can answer for yourself, and knowing that you have the self-love to not compare yourself to others. And really your own race is just a competition with yourself. So in summary, curiosity, passion, self-love, and balance would be my values.
Janine, it's been such a pleasure talking with you. Folks, you can learn more about Janine at JanineLee.com and JetsetJanine.com, and on Instagram at Dr. Janine Lee and JetsetJanine. And we'll link to these in the show notes. I had a chance to listen back on my interview with Janine, and I wanted to share a few key takeaways. It was great that she brought up the idea of unique selling proposition, or USP. It's a term I thought a lot about when I was leading a marketing team, but it hadn't really been top of mind for me recently. For some quick background, USP was coined in the 1940s by the ad agencies, and it's really just a fancy way of asking, how is what you're bringing to the table unique? Recently, the term has popped up a lot around personal branding, and it's an invitation to be specific and lean into what makes you, you. 2. It was such a pleasure to talk with Janine now, as she's starting to bring together her Ampersand through a book. Each of our Ampersand journeys takes its own time. I remember when I was working as a marketer at Apple in 2010, and a colleague came up to me with a flyer of my face of a show I was singing in that weekend. And she asked me in surprise, "Is this you?" Back then, I didn't talk much about my singing career during my day job. It took me a while to really embrace my multiple sides and live into them fully. 3. Janine talked about designing careers and a life that uses her many skills. This reminded me of my own transition to becoming an executive and leadership coach. At the time, I was working with a coach, and I remember distinctly saying to her, "Just want to be well utilized." And I think that's the goal for many of us, for our skills, talents, and experiences to be used in good ways. If you liked this show, share it with your friends and fellow Ampersands, and make sure to hit the follow button to be notified when new episodes drop. It would mean the world to us if you took 2 minutes to rate and review the show. Just go to the main show page on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and look for the stars.